Hello everybody, this is Michelle Fox and welcome back to The Simple Quilter. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make checkerboards. Now these can actually be made for quilts or you can make them as family games. And what I'm making them into are family games. Games that we can take to put in the camper or games that we can get out to play with our granddaughters. So these are truly fast and easy projects to do. Now you can see the checkerboards behind me. Two are done in more traditional colors. This one's done in red and grays and blacks. This is just strictly red and blacks. And then this one is white with blue and kind of a patriotic print in there. But you can make them as large or as small as you want. Now the important thing to remember is a checkerboard has 64 squares. So you'll be making your checkerboard 8 by 8. And again, you can make it any size. This right here, I cut 4-inch strips, and this one I cut 2.5-inch strips. Now it's really interesting because this one looks smaller, but it isn't. It's the same size as this one. But really, it does. I can see it in the camera there, and this one definitely looks smaller than this one. But they're not. Those are both cut using 2.5-inch strips. Now you can use any fabric you want, but I would recommend a light and a dark, or two highly contrasting colors like the gray and the red and the black, the blue and the white. Any color would look good with white. Any color would look good with light gray, but you'll be cutting 2.5-inch strips in contrasting colors. In order to make this checkerboard size right here, you're going to need 2 dark strips, 2.5 inches by the width of the fabric, and 2 light strips, 2.5 inches by the width of the fabric. And that's really all you're going to need to do this project. Now here's another important thing to consider when selecting your fabric, and I really didn't notice that until this morning. But I cut 2.5-inch strips and I sewed them together, but look what has happened. In some of the blocks, there's not hardly any of the print, so it looks like really kind of a different fabric. So when you select your prints, I would recommend that you pick a print that doesn't have such big open spaces, or you're going to get this strange kind of looking board like what I've done. Now the first thing you're going to do, you're going to take your 4 strips, your lights and your darks, and you're simply going to sew them together just like I have here. And you're going to press. Now you really do want to get good flat seams here, and I always pin sewing strips. If not, I get this wavy appearance to my whatever block I'm doing. Now here's kind of a little trick I want to show you to make this checkerboard. You're going to take your 4 strips here and you're just going to fold them in half. Okay? Then you're just going to take your ruler and trim off the end just like that. Okay, so once you have your strips cut apart, then you're just going to put them together and you're just going to sew them together so that you have 8 strips sewn together in a row. Okay, so once you have your 8 strips sewn together, you're simply going to take your ruler, line it up against the seams there, and trim off those selvages. Then you can start cutting your strips. Okay, so I know I need 8 strips. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start at 7.5 inches. And I'm going to do 7.5, then I'm going to move it back to 5. Then I'm going to move it back to 2.5, and I'm going to cut at 2.5. So that's going to give me 3 strips that are cut, and I'll just keep cutting those until I have a total of 8, because remember, the checkerboard is going to be 8 by 8. We have to have 64 squares. So once you have your strips cut, you're simply going to put them together and nest them. Now these should nest really well. Those should butt right up against each other, and those seams should lay very flat when you sew and then open them and press. And again, I just simply pin the strips together and then sew them together. So once you've sewn them together, they're going to look like this, and you want to be sure you get them alternating a dark and a light and a dark. Okay, then you're just going to take those to your iron and press them open really well and start sewing them together in strips just like this. And you're simply going to keep sewing those until you get all 8 sewn together. And once you've got all 8 sewn together, then I do a little stay stitch around the edge. And I think the stay stitch is super important, especially since you have all these little seams and there's no back tacking there unless you did it when you sewed them together. But even if I had back tack, I always do that little stay stitch. Then I just pressed it really flat. Now when I did the machine quilting, I spray basted it first, and then I did the straight line quilting. And what I did is I just did 1/8 of an inch away from all of the seams. And I think the look turned out really nice. And you can see how nice it looks on the back also. Okay, now I wanted to just take a couple minutes to talk to you about what I used for the checkers. Now I used these buttons, and these buttons I just purchased at Walmart, and they come in a packet of 6, and you need 12 checkers for each side of your checkerboard. Now these checkers will stack on top of each other, so when you're playing the game and you need to be crowned, you could just put 2 checkers on top of each other. Or if you have buttons in your button box that you want to use and they don't stack, you can just get a smaller button. I just found these gold buttons, and you'll have to have several of these also. And you can just, when it comes time to crown somebody, you can just put the button in there, or you can use a smaller button. And I thought those worked really well, and then those can just be your crowns. This will be a fun little game to get out during the 4th of July. Not that you have to have theme inspired games, but that does make them kind of fun. Now look how fun these white ones look. See how fun these white ones will look. And then again, you can just crown your opponent using gold or silver buttons, or really any color that you choose. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I hope you'll take time to make some of these for your family or your family and friends. If you've enjoyed today's video, please hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Please share with a friend, and as always, leave a comment. I love to get the comments, and I try to reply to each and every one. Please join me on my new Instagram account that I'm working on building. And until next time, have fun quilting.